Well, for now, though, it's time to dust off the flared paisley pants, colour glasses and light some candles as we turn on and tune in to the chilled 70s vibe.
Absolutely. It is all courtesy of a cabaret show performed by entertainer Queenie van der Zandt in a loving tribute to Canadian singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell.
Now they took all the trees, put them in a tree museum.
She was one of the iconic female voices of the 70s. At age 19, a pregnant, unmarried and penniless Joni Mitchell made a desperate decision to give up her infant daughter for adoption. But it was a decision that not only set her on a sterling musical career, but became the spark for many of her memorable songs.
Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere.
Among those moved by Mitchell's music is cabaret star Queenie van der Zandt, who paid the ultimate tribute with her show, Blue.
Paradise, put up a parking lot.
The show is named after Mitchell's fourth album, regarded by music critics as one of the greatest albums of all time. And in the show, Queenie and her three-piece band cover many of Mitchell's more well-known tunes and the stories behind them. Well, Queenie told me earlier that it took her a while before she could appreciate Joni Mitchell's music.
My gorgeous friend Neville Mitch, who I owe so much to because he introduced me to this woman, to her music. I said to her initially, I was like, oh, I don't like her. She's so whiny in the 70s. Anyway, and he was so determined. He just went, no, you're going to love her. And so he started this 3-year campaign. He was a work colleague of mine. And he started this 3-year campaign to just play her all the time. So he would find excuses. He would take me on drives, or he would have a dinner party at home and invite me. Occasionally he rang up the radio station we listened to at work and requested a Joni Mitchell song for me. Like, it just became this running gag that he was so determined to make me love her. And then finally, one day he played the song "A Case of You" from her Blue album.
Oh, you are in my blood like holy wine. You taste so bitter, darling, and so sweet. Oh, I could drink a case of you, darling.
And it was just like, it was so extraordinary. It was like the whole musical world of her just opened up to me suddenly. And I thought that is the most beautiful song I've ever heard. And to this day, it is my favourite song of all time ever.
Now, you also tell the stories behind the songs and what was happening in Joni's life when she wrote a particular song. Obviously, you did a lot of research for this show. Was it difficult to condense it all for the show?
We really concentrated on sort of, the bookending of that story about her giving up her daughter and then being reunited with her. That's kind of the bookends, and that's what that was our kind of into her music. Most of the stories that we tell are either stories about, how I came to know this song or what it means to me, or about what was going on in her life. And when you know those stories about, certain things that happen in her life, and then you hear that song, it really opens up the lyrics of the songs, because she's her own muse. She absolutely writes very, very raw and vulnerable material. She has always said that she bleeds onto the pages, and so it's great to hear stuff about her life because it really opens up the poetry of her lyrics.
Queenie, we know that Joni had a tumultuous love life. She was in and out of several rocky relationships, and she expressed a lot of that heartbreak and the challenges of the relationships in her music. For the younger audience, would you say that Joni Mitchell is, the original Adele?
Oh, 100%. That's such a great... I've never heard anyone say that, but that is such a brilliant comparison, because yes, Adele's so much like that too, in that she uses her own life, and you can see her life changing from album to album. Obviously, the majority of our audiences are older, sort of 40 and plus. But then we have this really interesting sort of younger audiences who are sort of in their 30s, sometimes in their 20s, who have come to Joni's music through the movie Love Actually.
I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions that I recall.
Such a raw, beautiful scene, and people, so many younger people have gotten into the Joni's music through that movie, which is really interesting.
I really don't know love at all.
Queenie, this is a very intimate show. Joni's music is moving and you give so much of yourself in the show. What's been the audience reaction so far?
The show is very immersive. So when people come in, you know, there's all these beautiful rugs on the floor, these hippie rugs. There's hundreds of LED candles on the stage. There's a big painting of Joni. There's big pots with paintbrushes. It looks like you've walked into an artist's studio. We burn incense, nag champa before they walk in, so that it all smells like you've just walked straight back into the 70s, you know. And people say that they sort of come in and they have that immersive experience of sort of being like, smell is such a, I wish we could use smell more often in theatre because it is such a potent kind of sense, you know. And so they just sort of feel like they walk into this big, beautiful, warm hug. And that is kind of what the show, people talk to me about the show being, that we kind of put them in a little boat and send them down this little river of melancholy where it really just opens up their hearts, and they get to kind of have this, you know, beautiful kind of gentle experience with her music, but also just of their own, you know, their own memories of loss or of, you know, of heartbreak and all that sort of stuff. And then they kind of pop out the other end, not saddened by it at all, but actually just sort of almost a bit refreshed, you know. It's like having a good cry, you know, and someone holding you. It's a really lovely, comforting feeling. And I think, you know, after such trauma that everybody's been in for the last couple of years, people, the reaction now has been even more potent than when we were doing the show before the pandemic. People, I think, really need that comfort and they need that release. And so, yeah, it's been a really lovely experience doing it and seeing that reaction with the audience.
It's an amazing show. You don't want to miss it. Queenie van der Zandt and her three-piece band will be touring the show Blue in Sydney and in Melbourne in July. So get your tickets.
Yeah, great, and great interview too. That was
Oh,
well done.
I mean, she was so much fun to chat with too.